Welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show on Reason and Theology on a Friday. Well, as I expected, the case with Bishop Michael Olson versus Mother Teresa Agnes Gerlach of the Most Holy Monastery Monastery of the Most Holy Trinity in Arlington, Texas. And Bishop Olson would be the Bishop of Fort Worth. Their lawsuit in civil court was dismissed. This was initiated by the nuns, the Carmelite monastery, against the bishop, as it was apparent this was going to be thrown out as effectively civil courts do not have jurisdiction in this matter, which is, we already knew that, given that the allegations, the criminal allegations they were making about Bishop Olson were not checking out. It wasn't making sense. So it did not seem that there was any grounds for a criminal lawsuit, which is, again, what I've been arguing over and over. And here we are. And by the way, if you haven't seen some of the other shows, I'll put those in the show notes, but I'm not going to recap the whole thing. But this has been a very, very sad thing. I did go over the audio of a discussion between Bishop Olson and also Mother Gerlach, who admits in the audio to violating her vow of chastity. In one way or another, she violated it by her own admission. This is not something that is, in speculation. She explicitly admitted to it. The exact nature of it may be debated, but she admitted to doing it. And so because of that, the bishop, first of all, put her effectively on suspension as the prioress of the monastery. And while he was doing an investigation, he investigated her. She initiates a lawsuit, and he also he did also remove her from her position as prioress, and even from the Carmelites, it seems. But prior to that, she had already initiated the lawsuit, from what I can tell, looking at the timeline. Which we'll look at it here in a moment, because we're going to take a look at what Christine Niles posted from Church Militant, because she has the scoop for us. And I want to share it so that we could take a look at it, as well as the court's decision, along with the decision that was made by the police department in the case of charges against Olson, criminal charges against him. So there was the lawsuit. Well, there's a lot of things going on. Number one, Bishop Olson removed the prioress from her position. There's that. There is the lawsuit initiated by the nuns. There were also criminal complaints by the nuns made against the bishop. And then the bishop also passed on to the police department photos, allegedly, of the monastery with illegal drug paraphernalia and drugs on the property. And there are updates to all of those things as well. So we're going to see everything here. This is from Church Militant. Court police dismisses case against Texas bishop. There's no jurisdiction here. In fact, you can look at the cause right here. And I'll briefly read it. Bishop Michael Olson and the Catholic Diocese of Fort Worth versus Discalced Carmelite Nuns, DBA Monastery of the Most Holy Trinity, Reverend Mother Teresa Agnes Gerlach, and Sister Frances Therese, who was also present during that audio recording. And she was just saying, "I accept, Bishop, your authority here." It seems like that was her voice there. If I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm mistaken. It sounded like that was her voice there. I believe she was present for the audio. But there was clearly another person there. And they were saying, we accept your authority here, Bishop. And then they go and sue. So as a result of this, on the 27th day of June 2023, came to be heard defendants Bishop Michael Olson and the Catholic Diocese of Fort Worth's second supplemental plea to the jurisdiction. After considering the plea, the evidence admitted at the hearing on the plea, arguments of counsel and applicable law, the court is of the opinion that the plea should be and is hereby granted in its entirety. It is therefore ordered that plaintiffs, Discalced Carmelite Nuns Incorporated, DBA Monastery of the Most Holy Trinity, Reverend Mother Teresa Agnes Gerlach, and Sister Frances Therese's claims, including all claims contained in plaintiff's fourth amended petition, are hereby dismissed for want of subject matter jurisdiction. Signed by the judge, Judge Don Cosby. So clearly, there's no jurisdiction here. So what did we really gain from this? What did the nuns gain from doing all of this? Zero. They did, however, lose a lot, because what happened here is, instead of this thing kind of being pushed away quietly, all of the gory details have come out. Now, granted, yes, the bishop did dismiss her, and it was mentioned why, but not in any kind of details. But beyond that, we didn't have any more information. But now all of the stuff has come out because the nuns have chosen to bring this into the civil court, and thus it's public record. And for what? Who really gained from this? I mean, it just brings scandal to the name of Christ to have nuns suing a bishop. What really was gained from this? From day one, I said this was wrong. This should not have been initiated. If there are any problems with Bishop Michael Olson, address those canonically. And if Rome doesn't ultimately do anything about it, at that point, you have to resign yourself to the will of God. But taking this to a civil court, it's not even within their realm of jurisdiction. And number two, it also seems contrary to what St. Paul said in 1 Corinthians. And it really doesn't benefit anyone here. It just makes the church look really bad. So why do this? Why did we have to bring this before everyone in the world? I mean, it's already public knowledge that, by the time I started commenting on it, it was all over secular news. So it's not like, well, by me even commenting on it, I'm adding to it. No, this was already well known in secular and church news. So we might as well talk about it if it's all out there in the open. Okay, well, we need to talk about this since it's already out there. I don't think it should be out there, but now it's out there. And since it's out there, we need to talk about it so that we can learn how not to act in these kinds of situations, what not to do in the future. And also to clear people's names, because claims are being made about both sides. And so I think that the restoration of a person's character is also important here. Okay, so let's take a look at the article. A Texas court and local police department have separately dismissed cases brought against the Bishop of Fort Worth. On Thursday, Arlington Police Department investigator Katie Bean confirmed in an email that the criminal investigation against Bishop Michael Olson has been closed as unfounded, because they were claiming criminal charges against him. Well, police department closed it out unfounded. I will not need to interview Mr. Olson as a part of my investigation, writes Bean to diocesan spokesman James Suter, and have closed the case out as unfounded. So, in other words, for all of those who were slamming the bishop, saying what he was doing is criminal, the civil authorities say no. For all of those also slamming the bishop, saying what he did is just completely violating her rights, she was right to go to civil court, they also don't agree with you. Even secular society doesn't agree with you. There will still be people, however, who will defend this. It's amazing, but there will still be people who defend this. The criminal complaint had initially been filed by attorney Matthew Bobo. That was the attorney of the nuns, who represents the nuns at the Carmelite Monastery of Most Holy Trinity in Arlington. Immediately after the criminal complaint was filed, the diocesan bishop, Pat Sfacina, issued a statement on June 8th blasting Bobo, quote, the mere fact that attorney Bobo initiated and made a report to the Arlington Police Department was not unexpected, given the aggressive manner he has litigated this ecclesiastical dispute in the press, end quote. Yeah. as I point out with their attorney, that side of the story just wasn't adding up. The Arlington Police Department also issued a statement closing its case against the nuns after allegations of drug paraphernalia allegedly found on the property. So that was also thrown out. The Arlington Police Department has concluded its investigation into allegations concerning the monastery of the Most Holy Trinity here in our city. The statement reads, the purpose of this investigation was to gather information and determine whether any criminal offenses had been committed in connection to the ongoing civil matter between Catholic Diocese of Fort Worth and Discalced Carmelite nuns who live at the monastery. So again, there's a civil lawsuit against the bishop. There was the canonical penalties that the bishop imposed on the nun. There was also criminal charges that they were trying to bring up against the bishop. And then also it was brought to the attention on part of the bishop to the police department of drug paraphernalia allegedly at the monastery. So a lot going on here. Civil, criminal, ecclesiastical issues, all going on here. You can actually see a little bit more about this from Christine Niles here on her Twitter. She gives a little bit more information about the situation with the drugs. Arlington Police Department closed investigation into the Carmelite nuns for lack of probable cause. So in other words, they couldn't really find they couldn't confirm any kind of evidence. I mean, you can obviously look at photos and see that, well, this looks like marijuana. But when you go knocking on their door and you try to see, is there anything shady going on here? Nothing is there, which tells us one of two things. Either this was staged. Well, it could actually be three things. Either it was staged at the monastery, or it wasn't the monastery at all, or it was the monastery and they just got rid of the evidence. I mean, those are the three options that I could think of. Lack of probable cause is not an exoneration, but a legal standard that must be met before criminal charges can be filed. If there is lack of evidence, charges cannot be filed. The investigation was launched after insiders passed along photos allegedly taken in the cloister revealing a room littered with illegal drug paraphernalia. The same insiders vetted by an ABC News affiliate said Mother Gerlach took trips to Colorado to purchase weed, which she then brought back to the monastery. One photo was reportedly taken earlier this year and another taken earlier this month. Both photos were given to police. It remains unclear whether the photos were staged, as nuns' attorneys claim. But again, keep in mind, their side hasn't really checked out whenever we've really been able to verify something. That doesn't mean they're wrong either, though. It just means that their side is not looking very good. Or whether the nuns got rid of the evidence before police came to the monastery. In the photos, the brick in the room is consistent with a photo in Gerlach, which I've pointed out. And as Mike Lewis pointed out, a package in the photo reveals the address of the Carmelite monastery. Now, I would mitigate that. It doesn't necessarily reveal the address. It reveals what looks a lot like the address. I'll put it that way. It's not absolutely clear that in the photo, this for certain is their address. If you zoom in on here, on the box in the photo with the marijuana right here and the bong over here and all kinds of prescriptions and then weed brownies here. If you look and zoom in at the tracking info here on the package, it's very blurry, and it does look like the address of the monastery, but it's not absolutely clear. I could see it being a similar address, and maybe it isn't that address, it's just a similar one. Or maybe it's their address. If I had to guess, it's probably the address, but that's speculation on my part. The evidence is not absolutely conclusive, but it does suggest it, and it's certainly possible. So I would say I would just mitigate that part, and say it doesn't necessarily reveal, but it certainly resembles. So let's return back to the article here. Following a thorough and extensive review by APD detectives and in consultation with the Toronto County District Attorney's Office, we have determined probable cause does not exist to file criminal charges against any of the individuals involved the case is now considered closed. So, criminal charges for both sides, not enough evidence or no probable cause. And then civil case dropped, not their jurisdiction. As far as the ecclesiastical penalties, well, Rome has upheld Bishop Olson and sandated all of his actions going back to April. So far that is upheld. She's been removed. And it seems lawfully by the church. So unless Rome, it seems like I think she has 2 more appeals still pending with Rome. Unless Rome comes back and overturns it all, I think what's going to happen here is his decision is going to remain. And if I had to guess, that's probably going to be the case. I don't see Rome overturning this. There's just it doesn't seem that there's any good reason, unless the nuns are sitting on some evidence they haven't disclosed yet that would really overturn it all and explain away all of the current evidence. It's pretty obvious this thing is not going to be overturned by Rome because there's no grounds to do so. The bishop was acting in his authority, and it sure seems that the nun was doing wrong because she admitted in the audio to doing wrong. Now, some people might think, well, he went too far. Perhaps he shouldn't have removed her from the Carmelites. Well, there's a little bit more to it than that. Let's take a look at it. One day after the police closed its case against Olson, Judge Don Cosby of Tarrant County Court in the 67th Judicial District dismissed the civil lawsuit against him, finding that the court lacks jurisdiction. It's therefore ordered that the plaintiffs are hereby dismissed for want of subject matter jurisdiction. We're grateful for Judge Cosby's ruling today in dismissing the nun's lawsuit, wrote Olson in a statement. The decision vindicates our steadfast belief that this is a private church matter that does not belong in the courts. And I agree. There was no criminal reasons to bring this before the courts, and there was no civil reason to bring it before the courts. All of these claims about the bishop was acting like a tyrant and stole her cell phone and terrorized the nuns. Yeah. So the judge is clearly, and the police department are clearly saying, yeah, no. Because again, in the audio, it's abundantly clear, painfully clear. He wasn't acting like a tyrant. Quite the contrary. He was very compassionate, very understanding, very kind, very gentle. And it was abundantly clear in the audio. He did not steal anything from her. She voluntarily gave up her phone, which, by the way, she's not entitled to possessions anyway, since she had been relieved of her duties at that very moment. So she wasn't entitled to possessions such as a cell phone anyway, because she is a nun. And according to their rule, according to their order, those possessions are in common, and it is up to the prioress or the administrator to assign those things or to make use of them, or delegate their use. And yeah, I mean, that clearly wasn't going to be the case with her. So she was no longer prioress. So it was very clear the charges that were being brought against him, the acts of what seems to be false accusations that were made against him were not substantiated, but his position was substantiated. Do I think that all the people who have accused, seemingly falsely, the bishop, that this will somehow shut their mouths, that they'll probably repent? I don't think the majority will. Just in my experience with people, the majority don't tend to turn things around, unfortunately, when they're proven to be wrong. But for those who have an open mind, they'll clearly see where the truth was all along. This matter will continue to proceed through an established canonical process, he added. Bishop Olson again asked the faithful for their continued prayers for the diocese, Mother Teresa Agnes, and all of the nuns of the monastery. The nuns filed a $1 million lawsuit after he imposed restrictions on the prioress, Mother Teresa Agnes Gerlach, and confiscated her cell phone and computer on April 24th, which in the audio, she was very reluctant to not necessarily give up, but to have somebody go and get it without her going to get it for them. Over and over, she wanted to um, go and get the computer for the bishop rather than having somebody else get it. You know, Bishop, is it okay if my room's really messy, Bishop? Is it okay if I go and get it? Oh, well, that would violate the integrity of this investigation. Oh, I understand, Bishop. Oh, well, Bishop, could my friend here go and get it for? And she was just pressing it really hard, making it look like she had something to hide and was wanting to get rid of some evidence. Another part of the audio revealed where she was messing around with her phone during this conversation, which is so odd, given that you're literally in front of a bishop right now, and that bishop is removing you from ministry and you're on your phone. What's up with that? And he has to ask her, hey, mother, what were you doing right now on your phone? Were you deleting something right now? Oh, no, I just received a text message from so-and-so. It just seems really suspect. Well, that being said, they file $1 million lawsuit saying, you know, he confiscated it, not just confiscated, but he had forcefully taken it from her and forcefully extracted this confession, which is bogus if you listen to the audio. And by the way, I love what the attorney said. He said, it's not really about the $1 million. It's more about making a statement. To which I say, okay, if it's not about the $1 million, it's just about making a statement, then ask for $1. There you go. It's not really about the $1 million, right? Then just ask for $1 and you'll make the same statement. It's not really about the money, right? Well, they didn't change things and ask for $1. The nuns also accused him of bullying, terrorizing, and traumatizing the nuns at the meeting. Gerlach denied allegations by the bishop that she had violated the sixth commandment with a priest outside the diocese. She denied the allegations, and yet on 5 different occasions she admits to them in the presence of multiple witnesses, and we have audio tape for one of those instances. And it's explicit in multiple occasions in the audio. She is of sound mind. He's not forcing anything. She voluntarily admits explicitly, yes, and she states how many times and in what manner. So there, I don't see why she tried to walk this back and deny the charges and then took this to court. What did we really gain here other than losing credibility? And again, making the church look bad. Church militant obtained audio recording of that meeting, which had originally played in court on June 27th. That contents contradict the nuns' claims. Rather than terrorizing the nuns, Olson was soft-spoken and gentle in his demeanor throughout. Gerlach also admitted in the recording several times that she had broken the sixth commandment, naming Father Bernard Marie as the priest. A statement from the Raleigh, North Carolina diocese reveals that Father Bernard Marie was the religious name of Father Philip Johnson, a priest of the diocese. Now, I'm sure we'll hear his side of the story. And that's great. You know, when we hear a side of the story, it's all fine and good. But based upon what we have so far, you know, with what she admitted to in the audio, I think we can have a moral certitude of what's going on here. In the audio, Gerlach admits there were in-person relations, but minutes later, backtracks and claims it was all over the phone. That was something you changed the story on, Olson said. We have had a hard time with the truth. It's probably my most memorable part from the audio because it was very on point. We're having a tough time here getting the truth from you. Gerlach does not appear to grasp the gravity of her offense in the meeting, appearing surprised that she's being put on administrative leave and is no longer prized during the time. She and her caretaker, Sister Frances Therese, however, accept the restrictions with docility. Yeah, so it was Therese there. Okay, I was double checking there. I was kind of hesitant, but from what I recalled, it was her there. She was there. She's also part of this civil lawsuit. Well, dismissed. What I thought was odd is it sounded like she said in the audio, Bishop, we accept your decision and you're acting within your authority here. But then they turn around and do this. It seems odd. I know that you have to do this as the bishop of our diocese, she says. Mother, what did you just do with your phone when I was talking there? The bishop asks when he sees Gerlach handling the phone. Why would you be handling your phone in the middle of a meeting with a bishop? And she seemed very attached to the phone. She kept talking about things that would suggest she was hesitant to have anybody look through the phone. She claims she was looking at texts and had come in regarding mundane matters. Texts that had come in regarding mundane matters. Okay, you didn't delete anything, he asks. She responds in the negative. Sorry, I'm shaking so badly, she says. While critics have accused Olson of overstepping his authority by dismissing Gerlach from her religious order in the audio recording, Olson merely places her on administrative leave while the investigation is ongoing. He places certain restrictions on her, including no phone use without first obtaining permission from the subprioress, as well as no computer use or trips outside the monastery without a chaperone. He cautions her not to subvert the authority of the new administration or to act in any way that could bring scandal. In accord with Canons 1347 and 1371, if even one incident or external action violating the restrictions, he will impose an investigation and then impose just penalties if they're true. It was only after the prioress filed lawsuit against the bishop, a complaint that, in light of the audio recording, was filled with inaccuracies and falsehoods. But did you hear that? It was only after the prioress filed a lawsuit against the bishop. Again, a complaint that in light of the audio recording was filled with inaccuracies and falsehoods about the bishop's conduct during the meeting, falsehoods that were repeated by multiple media outlets. And after evidence of possible criminal activity involving drugs with the cloister, that the bishop began formal proceedings to dismiss Gerlach, which he did on June 1st after the Vatican authorized him to act. So he originally puts her on suspension in April. And she files a lawsuit against him. He then dismissed her from the Carmelites. Or at least that's the way I'm reading it. Dismissed her either as prioresses or from the Carmelites. I think he did both. But that was after the lawsuit, it would seem, according to the timeline. I thought that was interesting. As far as the drugs, the criminal investigation into the nun was launched after photos taken by insiders revealed a room allegedly inside the monastery littered with drug paraphernalia. The three insiders, vetted by local ABC affiliate WFAA, claim Gerlach is addicted to prescription medication and is also smoking marijuana, which is illegal in Texas. Yeah, we have knowledge that she has traveled out of state to get illegal drugs and brought them back to the monastery, said one informant. The nuns are claiming the photos were staged. A close-up of a package in the photo, however, reveals the address of the monastery. Again, I mitigate that and just say it certainly suggests it, but it is a little blurry. But the brick wall is the same as the one featured in the photo of Gerlach. So, I mean, it looks morally certain that that's the monastery. Now, was it staged or not? Well, I mean, she does talk about how she has a great difficulty with her issue with drugs, and not drugs, but seizures, and how she, was undergoing, well, in her own words, her brain just wasn't working well at the time. I don't know if that's an implicit admission that there's an abuse of drugs or if it just means it's because of a medical condition. I don't know. But it certainly doesn't look good. But I don't think we'll find out any more about the drug issue. I think that's kind of going to be the end of that one. Well, we will find out at this point, since pretty much everything is dismissed. And so far, the bishop's decision is being upheld by the Vatican. I think what's going to happen is her other two appeals that are in Rome right now, those are probably also going to be denied. So I think this is effectively the end of the road for them. So what did we really gain here? Nothing. But we did lose a lot. Made the church look bad. certainly made her credibility incredibly questionable. Um, Seemingly uh, made false statements about the bishop, and he's then vindicated. So he comes out looking good, and they come out looking bad. It again hurts their character. Um, and again, everything was just dismissed. What did we really gain? Nothing. And then all of the info is put out there because the audio recording that we listened to, 30-minute audio recording that was played in court, public information, which that probably would not have been released by the bishop if they had not forced him into court. So all one did at the end of the day is just put all of their information out there in the public sphere. And a lot of this could have been quietly, I don't want to say swept under the rug, but we could have moved on from this very quietly if she had just accepted the decision. Sounds like she was kind of in denial. If you were listening to the audio, sounds like she was kind of in denial of some of these things, and maybe that was a factor for the lawsuit. I don't know. The reasons they cited for the lawsuit didn't check out, either just looking at the facts or according to the civil court itself. It just didn't check out. So what was the purpose here? Sad thing. I hope we learn from this. I also hope we learn don't jump the gun and immediately start attacking bishops and saying it's the mean and nasty bishops who are just infiltrated and they're all just trying to persecute faithful Catholics. That narrative has ran out of gas. Is it based in some truth? There's always some truth to some of these things. There are some bad shepherds out there who are persecuting faithful Catholics and have done that. These things have happened, probably are happening, and will continue to happen for 2,000 years. They've been going on. I don't think it's as pervasive as some people would have you believe. Certainly not enough to have this kind of gut reaction of immediately throw the bishop under the bus and try to vindicate the nuns. I hope we learned from this at the very least. Well, anyways, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and of course, check me out, patreon.com/reason and theology to get exclusive content and to support what I'm doing here. We'll see you later. God bless. Hey, everybody. Just wanted to tell you about my new free ebook, Church Chaos, Biblical Insights for Confused Catholics. If you are a confused Catholic and you're thinking about leaving the Catholic Church, or you're thinking about converting to the church, but you see that there's a crisis in the church and you're just unsure, this is the book for you. Again, it is free. Just simply go to reasonandtheology.com. You'll see a pop-up that comes up on your screen. Just simply click on it and you'll put in your email and it will provide you the free PDF ebook right then and there. Please check it out if you're confused about the situation in the Catholic Church today. reasonandtheology.com. So Reason and Theology is growing as a channel. As a result, there's been a number of increases in production costs. So if you're benefiting from RNT, I ask that you consider supporting the channel. You can help out by contributing to the Help RNT Grow fundraiser on GoFundMe. You could also consider becoming a member on Patreon at patreon.com/reason and theology, or become a channel member right here on YouTube. With either of these options, Patreon or a YouTube member, you'll get extra access to patron-only content. You can also donate directly to RNT at PayPal if you prefer that option. And you can find links to all of these resources and ways to support RNT in the show description. God bless.